Hello, everyone. Power is one of the most intoxicating forces in the world. It can command rooms, silence opposition, and demand obedience. The moment someone walks in with a title, a badge, or authority, people take notice. They stand at attention, adjust their behavior, and often follow orders, not necessarily because they believe in the person, but because they recognize the position. That is the nature of power. It is visible, undeniable, and often instant in its effect. But power alone is temporary. The moment it is stripped away, the reaction it commands. Character, on the other hand, operates on an entirely different level. It does not demand attention, it earns it. It does not require a title to have influence. It does not need a stage to make an impact. Character is not about what you have, but about who you are. It is built in silence, tested in adversity, and revealed in how you treat people when no one is watching. Power may turn heads, but character captures hearts. Power may create followers, but character creates believers. History is filled with leaders who held immense power yet failed to inspire lasting devotion. They ruled with an iron grip, commanded fear, and made decisions that shaped nations. But when their power was gone, so was their influence. People obeyed them when they had to, but the moment their authority weakened, their so-called followers disappeared. On the other hand, there have been individuals who had no official title, no high-ranking position, and no external power, yet their impact outlived them. They had no armies, yet they influenced millions. They had no badges, yet they commanded deep respect. They led not through force, but through character. Consider the workplace. A manager may have the power to enforce rules, set deadlines, and push employees to meet expectations. People may listen to them, but do they truly respect them? Do they follow because they believe in the person, or simply because they fear the consequences of disobedience? Now, think of a leader who treats people with fairness, who listens, who leads with integrity, and who uplifts others instead of tearing them down. That is the leader people remember. That is the leader whose name is spoken with admiration long after they leave the room. Because while power may get immediate results, character builds long-term loyalty. There is an undeniable truth in human nature. People may submit to power, but they are drawn to character. Power can be granted in an instant, but character is developed over time. A person can wake up one day and be given a high-ranking position, but no one wakes up with character. It is cultivated, refined, and proven through actions. It is easy to be powerful. It is far harder to be the kind of person people want to follow, even when they are no longer required to. Think about the relationships in your life. The people you respect most, are they the ones who had power over you, or are they the ones who showed integrity, kindness, and wisdom? When people talk about those who changed their lives, they rarely mention someone's title. They remember how they were treated. They remember the guidance, the encouragement, and the belief someone had in them. That is the mark of true leadership. That is the difference between being obeyed and being followed. Your character is what remains when everything else is stripped away, when the title is gone, when the power fades, when the authority no longer holds weight. Who are you? If the answer does not command respect, then power was never really yours to begin with. It was merely on loan, and it was only respected because of what it represented. But if your character is strong, if you lead with integrity, if you treat people well, then even without a title, you will still hold influence. People will still listen. People will still remember. The world does not need more people who chase power for the sake of authority. It needs more people who understand that leadership is not about position, it is about impact. The greatest leaders in history were not the ones who controlled through force, but the ones who inspired through character. Power can make you known, but character will make you remembered. Power will bring people to your side, but character will make them stay. Power demands obedience, but character earns devotion. And when the final chapter of your life is written, only one of those things will matter. A uniform carries weight. It represents authority, responsibility, and command. When a person steps into a room wearing a uniform, people react immediately. They straighten up, they become more aware, and they often show respect. not because of the person, but because of what the uniform represents. A police officer's badge, a soldier's fatigues, a doctor's coat, or a CEO's tailored suit. All of these symbols create an automatic response. The uniform signals power. It tells the world that the person wearing it holds a certain status, a certain level of control, and with that comes a certain level of respect. But take away the uniform, and the reaction often changes. The truth is, people don't salute the person inside the uniform. They salute what the uniform stands for. It is an uncomfortable realization for those who believe their position is tied to their personal worth. The reality is, respect that comes from a uniform is conditional. It is dependent on the title, the authority, and the expectations that society has placed on that role. The person wearing it may be a great individual, or they may be deeply flawed, but as long as they wear the uniform, they receive the same automatic respect. But what happens when the uniform is removed? What happens when the doctor takes off the coat, when the officer is out of uniform, when the CEO retires? If respect fades when the uniform is gone, then it was never about the person to begin with. This is why so many people struggle when they leave a position of power. They become so accustomed to the automatic respect, the deference, and the attention that comes with their role that they begin to believe it is truly about them. But when they step away, they are forced to face a difficult truth. Without the uniform, they are just another person. We see this play out in different areas of life. A strict boss commands respect in the office, but outside of work, people avoid them. A military officer is saluted on duty, but when they retire, they struggle to find the same recognition. A politician is surrounded by people when they hold power, but the moment they lose an election, their calls go unanswered. This is the reality of conditional respect. It is tied to position, not to character. And if a person builds their identity on position alone, they will one day wake up feeling invisible. True respect is different. It is not given because of a uniform, but because of who a person is when the uniform is gone. It is earned through integrity, through the way someone treats others, through the consistency of their actions over time. There are people in this world who never held an official title, who never wore a uniform, yet they are deeply respected. Not because they had authority, but because they had wisdom. Not because they had power, but because they had influence. History has shown that some of the most impactful people were not those who relied on status, but those who led with character. They did not need a uniform to command respect because their actions spoke louder than any title. They treated people well regardless of status, and as a result, people followed them. Not out of obligation, but out of admiration. These are the people who are remembered long after they are gone, not because of what they wore, but because of who they were. On the other hand, those who cling to status and depend on the power of a uniform often face a harsh reality. When they no longer hold that position, they struggle to find their place. They were respected because they represented something bigger than themselves, but they never built the kind of personal credibility that lasts beyond the role. They discover that the same people who once saluted them now walk past them without a second glance. This is why it is dangerous to build an identity solely around a position, because one day the uniform will come off. One day the authority will fade. One day the respect that was once automatic will no longer be given freely. And when that moment comes, a person will be left with only one thing: themselves. If the person behind the uniform is strong, if they led with character, if they built relationships based on genuine respect rather than forced authority, they will still hold influence, but if they relied on the uniform alone, they will find themselves lost. So the real question is this: when the uniform is gone, who are you? If the answer does not command respect, then perhaps the uniform was doing all the work. And that is a fragile foundation to build a legacy on. Titles have a way of making people feel important. They grant authority, demand recognition, and often come with automatic respect. The moment someone steps into a position of power, the world responds. Doors open, people listen, and admiration flows effortlessly. It feels personal, as if the respect is directed at the individual, but more often than not, It is the title being honored, not the person. The applause, the recognition, and the admiration exist because of what the title represents, not because of who is holding it. And the moment that title disappears, so does the applause. It is a hard truth that many leaders, executives, public figures, and even celebrities have had to face. As long as they hold their position, their presence carries weight. People return their calls, invitations flood in, and their words seem to matter. But the moment they step down, retire, or lose the position, the world moves on quickly. The people who once stood by them, who once sang their praises, who once sought their approval, suddenly disappear. The conversations become shorter, the invitations fewer, and the sense of importance that once felt so permanent vanishes almost overnight. This is because respect that is tied to a title is conditional. It exists only within the structure of the role, within the hierarchy of the system. People obey because they have to. They admire because it is expected, and they follow because the position demands it. But when the title is gone, the obligation disappears with it. The same people who once applauded will shift their attention to the next person who holds the role, because their loyalty was never to the individual, but to the title itself. History is full of examples of leaders who, while in power, were surrounded by admiration, yet once they left, they were quickly forgotten. Some struggled with the transition, unable to cope with the loss of attention and relevance. They had built their entire identity around the position, believing that the applause was for them personally, only to realize too late that it was never about them. They mistook borrowed respect for earned influence. And when the title was taken away, they were left with an emptiness they did not know how to fill. But there is a difference between those who are merely respected for their position and those who are respected for their character. Those who lead with integrity, who treat people well regardless of status, who build genuine relationships beyond the title, those are the people who remain influential long after the applause fades. Their impact is not tied to a position, but to the way they made others feel, to the wisdom they shared, and to the way they carried themselves even when no one was watching. Consider the difference between a boss who rules with authority and a leader who inspires with wisdom. The boss may command immediate obedience, but when they leave, their influence ends. The leader, however, continues to be remembered, even years later, because their impact was not dependent on power. The people they helped, the lives they touched, and the lessons they imparted continue to shape others long after their departure. That is the difference between temporary respect and lasting influence. The danger comes when people become addicted to the applause, when their sense of self-worth is tied to the recognition they receive. They begin to chase status instead of purpose. They make decisions based on what will keep them relevant rather than what is right. They surround themselves with people who tell them what they want to hear rather than those who will challenge them to grow. They mistake visibility for value, forgetting that true worth is not measured by how many people clap for them, but by how many people are truly impacted by them. Eventually, every title disappears. Every position comes to an end. Every leader, no matter how powerful, must one day step aside. And when that moment comes, all that remains is the person behind the title. If the applause was their foundation, they will crumble in its absence. But if they built their influence on character rather than power, they will find that they never needed the applause to begin with. Because the respect they earned, the impact they made, and the people they uplifted will remember them, not for their title, but for who they truly were. Respect that comes from position is automatic. It is granted the moment a person steps into a role of authority. A CEO, a general, a judge, or a president. Each of these titles carries weight. People listen when they speak, follow their orders, and acknowledge their presence. But this respect is not necessarily directed at the individual. It is directed at the position they hold. The moment they put on the uniform, step into the office, or take the oath, respect is given. Not because they have earned it, but because society has placed value on their role. This kind of respect is temporary. It exists as long as the position remains, but the moment it is removed, so is the automatic deference that comes with it. A leader who relies solely on their title to command respect will quickly find themselves struggling once the title is gone. They may have been surrounded by people who listened, obeyed, and even praised them, but if that respect was only tied to the role, it will disappear the moment they no longer hold it. On the other hand, respect that comes from character is something entirely different. It is not given freely, it must be earned. It does not come from a title, but from how a person treats others, how they carry themselves, and the values they uphold. Unlike positional respect, which is dictated by external authority, respect by character is deeply personal. It is built over time through consistency, integrity, and authenticity. There are people who have held high-ranking positions, yet the moment they stepped down, they were forgotten. Their authority was never rooted in who they were, but in what they represented. The same people who once stood by them quickly moved on to the next person who filled the role. And yet there are others who never held an official title but are deeply respected because of the kind of people they are. They did not need a position to command respect because their actions spoke louder than any title ever could. Earning respect through character requires patience. It is not something that happens overnight. It comes from the way a person handles difficult situations, how they treat those who can do nothing for them, and whether their words align with their actions. A person with true character does not demand respect, they inspire it. People follow them not because they have to, but because they want to. Consider the difference between a boss and a leader. A boss may be given immediate respect because of their authority, but a leader earns it through their actions. A boss may have the power to make decisions, but a leader earns trust by making the right decisions, even when they are difficult. A boss may be feared, but a leader is admired. And when the title is gone, it is the leader who remains respected, while the boss is quickly forgotten. Respect by position can be taken away at any moment. A person can be fired, replaced, or retired. But respect by character is permanent. It follows a person wherever they go because it is tied to who they are, not what they do. A person of integrity, wisdom, and kindness will be respected in any room, in any setting, with or without a title. They do not need authority to be heard because people value their words based on the weight of their actions, not the power of their position. This is why those who chase titles for the sake of respect often find themselves feeling empty. They mistake authority for influence, forgetting that true influence does not require a title. They rely on external validation rather than internal credibility. And when the title is gone, they are left with nothing, because they never took the time to build the kind of respect that lasts. The question is simple. If you lost your title today, would people still respect you? If the answer is no, then the respect you had was never really yours. It belonged to the position. But if the answer is yes, then you have earned something far greater than any title could provide. You have built a legacy that extends beyond authority, beyond status, and beyond circumstance. Because real respect is not given, it is earned. And the only thing that can truly earn it is character. A title is a key that can unlock doors of opportunity. It grants access to rooms that were once closed, gives authority to make decisions, and provides a platform where voices are heard. A title can make people listen, gain trust instantly, and command attention without effort. It is a powerful tool that can elevate someone to new heights, allowing them to sit at tables where major decisions are made. But while a title can open doors, it does not guarantee they will stay open. The only thing that ensures continued access, lasting influence, and sustained respect is integrity. Many people believe that once they achieve a certain status, success will follow automatically. They assume that the position itself will carry them forward, that people will always respect and support them simply because of their title. But time and again, history has shown that a title alone is never enough. Without character, without trust, and without integrity, those doors that once swung open so easily will eventually close. The opportunities will fade, the influence will weaken, and the people who once showed respect will turn away. Integrity is what keeps doors open because it builds lasting trust. People may initially respect a title, but they remain loyal to a person's values. The way someone treats others, the honesty in their actions, and the consistency of their words determine whether they will be welcomed back after the title is gone. A leader who gains power through deception or selfish ambition may rise quickly, but their downfall is inevitable. They may enjoy temporary success, but without integrity, that success will not last. The difference between a person who maintains open doors and one who loses them is simple: character. Those who stay true to their values, who honor their commitments, and who treat people with fairness and honesty will always be invited back. Even if they leave a position, even if the title is taken away, the respect they earned through their integrity remains. People remember how they led, how they handled challenges, and whether they stood firm in their principles. Their reputation continues to open doors long after their official authority has ended. On the other hand, those who rely solely on their title to gain respect often find that as soon as the title is gone, so is the admiration. If their power came from fear, manipulation, or empty promises, then the moment they lose their authority, people will turn their backs. The same doors that once welcomed them will shut, and they will realize that it was never them who was respected, it was only the position they held. Integrity is not about perfection, it is about consistency, honesty, and accountability. It is about doing the right thing even when no one is watching. It is about making decisions that align with principles rather than personal gain. People with integrity do not just think about the short-term benefits of power, they think about the long-term impact of their actions. They understand that while a title may get them in the room, only trust will keep them there. This is why the most respected leaders, mentors, and influencers are not just those with impressive titles, but those with strong character. Their word carries weight because they have proven themselves trustworthy. Their presence is valued because they have demonstrated integrity in every aspect of their lives. Even if they leave their position, people continue to seek their advice, follow their example, and welcome them with open doors. Those who chase titles without building integrity often find themselves in a cycle of constantly needing external validation. They believe that climbing the ladder is the goal, but they fail to realize that reaching the top means nothing if they lack the character to stay there. They may force doors open through power, connections, or status, but without integrity, those doors will eventually close. The lesson is clear. A title may grant temporary access, but only integrity ensures lasting influence. A title may make people listen, but only integrity makes them believe. A title may give authority, but only integrity earns trust. And when the title is gone, it is integrity that determines whether doors will continue to open or whether they will be closed forever. If you want true respect, ask yourself, who are you without the title? This question separates those who rely on their position from those who command respect through their character. A title can give you power, authority, and influence, but it does not define who you truly are. It is easy to mistake the privileges that come with a position for personal worth. But the real test of respect begins when the title is stripped away. Many people spend years climbing the ladder of success, believing that a title will grant them the respect they desire. They chase promotions, recognition, and leadership roles, thinking that once they reach a certain status, people will admire them. And for a time, it may seem true. The moment they step into a position of authority, doors open, people listen, and the room falls silent when they speak. But is that respect for the person or merely for the title they hold? History has shown that titles alone do not command lasting respect. The world is filled with former executives, leaders, and public figures who, once removed from their positions, were quickly forgotten or disregarded. Their power was never truly theirs. It belonged to the role. The people who once obeyed them did so out of obligation, not admiration. The applause they received was for the title, not the individual behind it. And when the title was gone, so was the attention, the influence, and the respect they thought they had earned. Contrast this with those who do not need a title to be respected. These are the individuals whose words carry weight even when they are no longer in leadership, whose presence is valued regardless of their position. They are respected not because of the title they once held, but because of the integrity they demonstrated while holding it. Their influence is not dependent on power, but on the principles they live by. People continue to seek their guidance, trust their judgment, and honor their legacy long after their official role has ended. The difference between these two types of individuals is character. Respect that comes from a title is temporary, but respect that comes from character is permanent. Titles can be given and taken away, but who you are remains. Your values, your treatment of others, and the way you lead in moments of challenge determine whether people respect you for your position or for your principles. A person who depends on their title for respect will always fear losing it. They will hold on to authority, control, and status because, without them, they feel invisible. They will demand respect rather than earn it, using their position as a shield against the reality that they have not built true influence. But a person who has earned respect through their character has no such fear. They know that even if they lose their position, their integrity remains. They do not need a title to be valued because their actions and words speak for themselves. Ask yourself, if your title was taken away today, would people still respect you? Would they still seek your advice, follow your example, and hold you in high regard? Or would they move on to the next person who holds your former position, treating you as if you never existed? This question reveals the truth about where your influence comes from. If your respect is tied to your title, it is not truly yours. But if your respect is tied to your character, it will follow you wherever you go. The most respected individuals in history were not defined by their titles, but by their actions. They were leaders, even when they held no official position, guiding and inspiring through the strength of their character. They did not need authority to make an impact because their influence was built on trust, honesty, and integrity. They understood that titles fade, but the way they treated people would be remembered. If you want true respect, do not rely on a title to define your worth. Build your character in a way that makes titles unnecessary for people to recognize your value. Lead with integrity, serve with humility, and treat others with fairness, whether you hold a position of power or not. Because in the end, the only respect that matters is the kind that remains when the title is gone. A title may grant access, but it is integrity that determines whether the doors remain open. True success is not measured by the positions we hold, but by the trust we build. People may respect authority for a time, but they remain loyal to character. The legacy of a person is not written by their status, but by their actions, honesty, and commitment to doing what is right. When power fades and titles disappear, only integrity stands the test of time. If you wish to keep the doors open long after the title is gone, let your character be your foundation. Let your values speak louder than your position. Because in the end, the respect that lasts is not given to those with authority. It is earned by those with integrity. Thank you for your time, and may you always choose integrity over status.